Okay, right, Barry Hilton, hello.
Hello.
So, we've just been playing a game of With Talon and Claw, which is the latest incarnation of Beneath the Lily Banners. Is that fair to say?
Yes, indeed. It's an amendment, a supplement to the core rules.
Okay, and where does that take us in the world?
Takes us pretty much to the east of Central Europe. So we're talking about the Baltic, Poland, the Austrian Empire of the time, into the Ottoman Empire and into Russia. So all points east.
And for anyone who doesn't already know, what period are we in here?
We're talking between 1680-ish and 1723.
Okay, right. So, it's, broadly speaking, the Lace Wars era?
Yeah, you could call it that, but it's a mixture of lace and all the other things that probably don't appear in Lace Wars games, such as caftans and all sorts of Eastern type clothes.
Spandex?
Well, perhaps in some tables, Dan, that may be the case.
Probably not so much. Right, okay, so the previous hardback rule book, because that's what you like to do, isn't it? Hardback books. The previous one was Three Kings.
Yeah, the War of Three Kings, which was basically Beneath the Lily Banners 3rd edition, and I wanted to choose a theme for that, and I chose Ireland because I felt Ireland wasn't the wars in Ireland and the wars using King William's army and King James' army weren't really that well known in wargaming. The sort of circles, it's all about Marlborough and it's all about War of the Spanish Succession. So it was just kind of shining a light in the corner somewhere else. So the rules themselves are a core system for use in that period. I just happened to theme it around Ireland. And so the theme of this book is the Eastern Wars and the Great Northern War.
Mm-hmm. Is there a connection between the Eastern Wars and the Great Northern War? Are they two different things that you just contained in one book?
They are geographically connected and connected by the protagonists, because you could then, a good example is to take the Swedes, who were obviously one of the main protagonists fighting in the north of Europe around their own sort of Baltic sphere of influence, but they also got right down into Russia and in what's the modern Ukraine, if you like, which was then butting on to the Ottoman territories. And then, of course, the Poles fought both against the Ottomans and with and against the Swedes. So you've got lots of connections between the nations that are involved in the geography. So they're kind of intermingled, but they're separate, if that's not a contradiction.
And what's the appeal of that area and era for you?
First of all, the difference in the terrain is pretty significant when you think about Western Europe at that time, and then think about the terrain that would have been prevalent in the eastern areas. Much more open plains, flat plains, less wooded, possibly in most cases less mountainous. So you've got that, you've got extremes of temperature as well, and you've got a different style of warfare. So you don't have such an emphasis on the linear, fairly formalised warfare of the Western theatres, France against the Dutch and the English and the Austrian Empire, or the imperialists as some people call it. So what you've got is much more fluid warfare, and also in some respects some of the aspects of these games in the East are more like an Ancients game. So you've got lots of cavalry, lots of irregular cavalry, you've got lots of movement, and it's a little bit more, it's amplified in terms of the extremes, I think. Yeah.
And do you think that's replicated in the rules, or at least that's what you?
I'd like to think it is. That was the objective. Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been a bit of a duplication between the two books. I think one of the things wargamers like is they like a bit of excitement on the table. They like decisive outcomes. They like to see things happening. You know, they like to see lots of routes and lots of combats, and they like to see lots of action. So, although the rules are not Hollywood, I've tried to assimilate most of the historical trends that were prevalent at the time. It's still quite exciting as a game, so you get quite a lot of stuff happening. I mean, we've just played a game today, and you know, there was a huge amount of combat in it. There was lots of charges, lots of routes, lots of action, lots of sort of sweeping to and fro, and that's really what you get in the Eastern Wars, I think, anyway.
Certainly in our game, you couldn't really call it until right late on. It was like, okay, yeah, I was ahead as the Swedes, and then Mark, who we were playing against, he was ahead of the Russians. So it did seesaw quite a lot. Is that something that you wanted to get in? Yeah,
well, I think it would be like watching a soccer game or any kind of sporting match where it was end-to-end stuff. You know, that's what you pay for. You pay to be entertained. So you don't want to go along and see something that's pretty predictable, because you could have just sat at home and watched the highlights. So being in it is good, and having unpredictability in it is really good, because that's the kind of things you remember. You always remember that game where something happened. Oh, if only I had rolled this, or did you see what happened when I rolled that? I think that's what makes wargaming memorable, because it is a game effectively.
And of course, great looking figures on the table again today. A lot of them, well, several of them you were saying were 20 odd years old, but also quite a few from your range as well, from the Warfare Miniatures range.
Yes, indeed. Most of the stuff, I'm not quite sure what the camera angle's like here, but most of the stuff that's probably in eyeline at the moment is Warfare Miniatures, but there's some stuff which is here. This unit at the front was painted by a good friend of mine, David Imrie, about 25 years ago. They're the old Foundry figures with some conversions in there. That at one point, that was the only Great Northern War range that was available. But now, I mean, you look at what's Bill had footsore and has footsore, or had it till recently, I think. And then you've got Ebor, and then we've got a fairly extensive range at Warfare, and there's a couple other ranges as well. So, I mean, it's a a nice kind of big buffet of figure ranges now, but before you could only get one manufacturer, and it was only a few codes. I mean, I think there was probably about 6 or 7 codes. So now we've got an embarrassment of riches, really.
That can only be a good thing, can't it?
Well, yeah, but then again, gamers always want something else. So we're endeavouring to do that. So this range is continuing to expand. In fact, I've just looked at the most recent sculpts that we've got coming out sometime between now and the end of 2019. We've got all the Ottoman cavalry coming out. We've got some Swedes and some Russians in the Karpus or Cartouche hats, which a lot of people wanted, rather than the tricorns. So, we're continuing to drip into most of the work at the moment is going into the Ottomans, which will be followed by some Poles and some Tatars and some Cossacks. But we'll still feed the Russians and the Swedes as well, because there is a market for it. I mean, and I think that is one of the things that's been really interesting, is the interest level that's been stirred up by just putting a couple of games on at some shows. It's new for people. Some people don't really know about the Great Northern War. They come along, it looks exciting, it's colourful. Yeah, have a go at that.
And on the horizon, on the printed front, you've got a scenario book coming, you mentioned.
Very much looking forward to getting that out within the next few months. It really depends on how quickly we can just get it organised, but the book's written. And what I'm going to do, since this book with Talon and Claw has been commercially successful, which is great, it means I can still feed my children and all that kind of thing, I immediately jumped into a scenario book, but I've decided to drip these scenario books out. They'll all be in the hardcover format like this. It'll create a set, but the first one starts with 1680, and then I'm working through medium-sized battles that can be played on a 6x4 or a 6x6 table. All of them can be done in 3 or 4 hours, so it's designed for home play or a club night. And so starting from 1680 and then moving right through till the end of the 9 Years' War will be the first book. The next book after that will do the War of the Spanish Succession and some Great Northern War, and then we'll follow that on with some smaller specific wars around Ireland and things like that. But these will be games designed to be played in a night by between 2 and 4 people, so affordable games on tables that are sustainable in a house or in a small club setting.
Great, very good. So we'll look forward to that. And thanks very much for talking to us today.
A pleasure.
All right, see you, Barry.
Thanks, Dan.
This video has been produced by WI Prime. WI Prime is Wargames Illustrated Magazine's online members club. As a WI Prime member, you get access to all Wargames Illustrated videos before anyone else. We'll keep you posted on what's new via the Primetime News Bulletin delivered to your inbox every Friday. If you're not a WI Prime member, you're missing out on loads of benefits, including access to the Wargames Illustrated Vault, freebies, discount vouchers, PDFs of the latest magazine, and more. Find out more about WI Prime by following the link.